So Nate, man, great catching up here. We've been wanting to do these for a while, some of this long form style video. And one thing that we talked about was diving in and giving some really good information around down payment assistance products. So you're the brains of that. You know these products probably inside and out. I know enough to be dangerous and enough to ask you some really good questions that can really help our audience. So I'll set that up with a quick story. There was a client, and you remember this because it was very recent. We talked about it right before we came on, that got referred to us. The realtor was like, hey, I think we should look at some other products for this particular borrower. He's been pre-approved with a mortgage broker out of Miami, and the broker told him he doesn't qualify for any down payment assistance. She was smart enough to say, I don't know if he does or not, but can you guys look and see? And so I remember I believe I spoke to the client first. We had a short conversation, gathered some info, and then I think you took over with the borrower. And within a few minutes of looking at credit and financials, we were like, this guy's a first-time home buyer. He qualifies for all down payment assistance products. So I think that there's a lot of times in the industry that mortgage professionals do not like to put borrowers in down payment assistance programs, either because they make less money or maybe the inspection process and there's a little more red tape in getting them approved, or they don't have a lot of experience working with, second mortgages and that sort of thing. I don't know if those are all the reasons. We helped over 100, I think we helped exactly 152 families last year get down payment assistance. So what's your initial thoughts when you think down payment assistance and you think first-time home buyers? What do you initially think of down payment assistance and how it helps or how it doesn't help? What do you think of it when you talk to a borrower when you're thinking about DPA?
Yeah, I think you nailed it there. There's just a lot of misinformation out there about down payment assistance programs. I don't know exactly why that is, so it's nice to be able to shed some light on it because sometimes it's very beneficial for certain borrowers when buying a home, and sometimes it may not be. But there's so many different down payment assistance programs out there. There's some lenders that do some of the programs, or some lenders that do all the programs, or some lenders that won't touch it or go near it. So maybe that has some of the say in why there is so much misinformation about down payment assistance programs. But you're right. 25% of our branches loans that we did last year were down payment assistance. And
crazy.
And it was a great option for every single one that we put in that product.
Do you remember 12 years ago when we didn't do them?
We didn't do
any down payment assistance products.
I don't know how it was as the industry, but it feels like it's not just us that's doing a high percentage of them. It's probably a lot to do with the market too.
Yeah.
Things are expensive, rates are higher. One of the hardest things to do is to come up with a down payment on a home. So if you can get some assistance in that category, it makes it way easier to be able to get into the market and not get eaten up by all this inflation that's happening right now.
Yeah, I think you're right. How about we talk some specifics on some of the products? I think we'll talk about 3 or 4 of the different ones. Let's talk how much money clients get. What's the income limits like? Do you really have to be a first-time home buyer? Where the money comes from. Let's kind of start with Florida Bond or any other thoughts.
So I guess we'll do overview of a couple of the programs, the majority of the ones that we work with. So the one through the state, the Florida Bond program, I think is the most common one that we do. And then you have like your more local, like HFAs, which the one in Polk County here is the Pinellas Bond. Yep. And then we have our local for Polk County SHIP program. So those 3 are probably the ones that we deal with the most. The Florida Bond program, you can get $10,000 to go towards the down payment and closing costs. Some of the misinformation comes out of whether you have to actually pay it back or not. So you do have to pay that one back.
Yes.
Which I think is a selling point that a lot of people use against down payment assistance programs. But it's an interest-free loan, basically, that gets paid back whenever you sell the house or refinance the home or no longer occupied as your primary residence.
No interest accrues or anything.
No interest accrues or anything. So the way I like to look at it is, okay, yeah, you'll have to pay it back at some point, which some people use it as a selling point against it because they're like, hey, you don't want to have to pay this back, so why would you get the loan to begin with? But I kind of look at it as, okay, you have the ability to put your own money down now, or you can put your money down in the future. So if you put your money down in the future, then you have more money in your pocket to do things to the home, so you don't have to go rack up credit card debt or put in a retirement account or a savings account or save for a rainy day, rather than dumping it all into the property.
Yeah.
So that's where I would say against that.
And I think I don't know, when you're really looking at finances, when you're borrowing the money for free and there's zero interest that accrues, nothing happening. Why would you?
I don't know.
Why would you?
I don't know the downside to that.
Yeah.
But yeah, there's other financial aspects to that. So one is that down payment assistance portion that you would have to pay back in the future. Closing costs are lower because you don't have to pay documentary stamps on the mortgage. So that's a positive. The rates over the last couple of years have actually been really, really good on the Florida bond program. They're kind of creeping in the other direction. They are a little bit higher now from what I've seen.
Meaning FHA or
Then if
conventional.
we were to put your own money down.
Yeah.
So then there's that pro and con to weigh against each other. But you have the Pinellas bond, which that rate's a bit better. It's about
So why is it called? I was thinking about this the other day. Is it Pinellas bonds because the company is based out of Pinellas? Is that the only thing I'm thinking?
I think where the bond program comes from is where money's raised. So the Florida bond program, it's a Florida bond.
State.
Whereas the one in Pinellas County is the bond for that local area that's used in Pinellas and Polk and one other county. I don't know.
It's either Hillsborough or what's the other county? Pasco. It's Pasco. Yeah, Pasco County. Yeah,
thanks, David.
Yep, that's good.
So with the it's called Home Key, the one in Pinellas that you can use for Polk. The assistance lower. It's $8,000.
$8,000. I heard the rates are smoking on that.
The rates are really good. Yeah, they're about 0.75% lower than what the Florida bond program is. Just the assistance is lower. But it's a great program to kind of compare if you're looking at all
so
out there.
We'll just talk them all kind of together. Let's mainly do Florida bond and the local Pinellas. So you have there's an income limit on the program.
Yeah.
What's the ballpark or range for families?
Yeah, so it depends on your household size. So the bigger your household size, the more income that you can make. It's roughly anywhere from like $96,000 to $106,000.
Household income.
Household income.
Yeah. So you want to define household income?
Yeah.
People understand.
So if it's a husband and a wife, just the husband's on the loan, but the wife works as well, we still have to count her income to make sure they're under the income limit, or anybody else that could live in the household.
Correct. So, and that's for all of these down payment assistance products.
Yeah. So the only one that isn't is the Hometown Hero program, which is administered just like the Florida bond program is. Those funds usually come out in July, and that's an amazing loan program when it comes out.
Speaking of that, do you think we'll get Hometown Hero money again?
I don't know if I've heard or not whether they will. My guess is that we will. This will be the third year.
This will be the third year. We've had $200 million.
Yeah.
So there's been $200 million of money set aside for that. We went through it very fast.
Program. My guess is it would, and there may be some information out there already, whether there's an indication of whether it will come out or not, but I would think it would.
So I'll give you this, and I think it'll be a smaller I'm going to ask you a question. Maybe you know the answer. So I saw this stat. You know what % of families in the U.S. make more than $100,000?
U.S. stat?
Yeah.
You want me to guess?
Yeah, U.S. stat. What %?
Make more than households.
Households, yeah. It's a very flat number, round number. It's like,
I'm gonna say 25%.
10%. Isn't that crazy? So I
would have guessed, yeah.
So
I did guess. It was.
Yeah.
I would have guessed higher.
Yeah. So I pitched. I was pitching this program this weekend to a group of agents, asked them the same question. They all were like, "Oh, it's got to be 20-25%." That's because I think people are like, "Oh my God, inflation's eating us up."
Yeah.
So families. I remember when, if you were a family and you made, or if you were an earner and you were like, "Dude, once I get to a 6-figure income, I made it." In our country now, a 6-figure income, dude, it's not much money after taxes, especially with the way price of things are. My point was, most families in the U.S. will qualify for down payment assistance, 95 to 100 to 105,000. So just something to think about for people like, man, I'm not going to qualify. Well, what
The
about?
other criteria is first-time home buyers.
Yes, that's what I was literally going to ask you. So what's deemed as a first-time home buyer?
Yeah, so for the most part, a first-time home buyer is defined as someone that hasn't owned a primary residence in the last 3 years.
Hmm.
So the key word there being primary residence.
Yes.
Because sometimes parents will add their children onto the deed. Well, if they don't live in the home, technically it's not their primary residence, and they would still be considered
They would still qualify.
first-time home buyer. Yeah.
There's a vet exception
Yeah.
to the product. Why don't you explain if you're a VA,
Yeah.
how that exception works for down payment
So
assistance?
for like the Florida bond program, for Pinellas Home Key, there's a veterans exception where if you're a veteran, then you don't have to be a first-time home buyer in order to qualify for the program, which we just did one. We just closed last week for a veteran.
Cool. Did the
Second
veteran?
home that they owned.
It was a second home they owned, so we used their additional entitlement to qualify them.
For the VA portion, yeah.
Got you. And they went VA with the. So I had a realtor this weekend, and we were talking, and we brought this exception up. She was like, "Why would they even get
That's a good question.
down payment assistance if there's no money down?"
Yeah.
What would you say to that?
So you use it for closing costs.
Yes. So it'd be good.
So you may be able to negotiate better on the price of the home, or if there's a couple different offers and you don't need to get closing costs covered, then you have a stronger leg that you can put into it to be able to get your offer accepted. Or you can use it down. So let's say your rate's 7%. So I'd rather borrow money at 0% than 7%. So
Yeah.
you're saving that on whatever the down payment portion
There
is.
you go. Can you use the money to buy the rate down?
No.
Okay.
No. Yeah, the rate is what the rate is. So
Yeah.
you can go.
We don't set those rates.
We don't.
The lender's
right.
not setting those.
Yeah, you can go online and view those rates for the Florida bond program or for Pinellas Home Key, whatever you want.
So the other
So the rate's the same, whether you're a 640 credit score or your 760 credit score.
great. That's where I was leading into. I've heard mortgage brokers say it's tighter to qualify for. What are some of the credit score requirements to qualify
Yeah,
for?
so for the programs that we're talking about in specific, it's a 640 credit score. You have to have 640 or over to qualify for the program. The debt ratios are a little tighter than if you were to put your own money down. So if you're getting an FHA loan, maybe you qualify for $300,000, but if you're doing a down payment assistance loan, maybe it's $250. Those are just round numbers, but it would be a little bit less that you could qualify for something like that. But maybe you don't want that much home, so it just depends.
Cool. Let's wrap up with two things real quick, maybe rapid fire on. Not a lot of people are going to have it, but the Hands program. Hands is a product where it's another down payment assistance program. It's literally right here.
Yeah,
and that
across the
right
street.
out of our back door here. And I know I've heard that it's a little more astringent to qualify. The inspections are tighter, but the client can get more money.
Yeah.
What do you think about that? The product, or who's it right for?
It's the best program by far of
Mhm.
any down payment assistance program that we have. You nailed it. All those things are true. The inspections are more strict. The home's going to have to be in pretty good shape in order to qualify for it. The assistance is higher. So, I mean, you could get $20,000 to $50,000 in assistance, and depending on the area that you're using it in, it could be forgivable.
Yeah, that's wild, right?
Which is incredible. They're more strict with like the paperwork, the qualifying criteria, the income limits are lower. I wish more people would use it because I think it's available. We just don't talk about it enough. So I'm glad we're doing this.
Yeah.
Because if you can get $50,000 assistance, it's going to go a long way, especially in this market.
With the same, there's no interest charge. It's free money essentially that you got to pay back. You got to pay, but there, like you said, there's times where if you stay in the house long enough, this could certainly be forgiven.
Yeah, depending on the area and how long you plan on being in the home.
Now, is that money only for the city limits of Lakeland?
No. So there's different areas and there's different amounts that you could get. So there's inside the city limits of Lakeland, the assistance is higher, but you can use it anywhere in Polk County. Now they have funding, so sometimes they run out, and you can always go online and see if they have funding depending on your income criteria. But like I said, I think it's the best program we have by far, and I wish we would do it more.
Yeah, I think we only probably do 5 to 10 of those a year.
Yeah.
So it's a very small. It's 5 or 10% of our 5. It's probably only 5% of all the DPA products we do. I would say. Lastly, I hope this helps because I think it's important In the past, we never spent a lot of time, me really, educating realtors or clients on all the different loan programs. But I just feel it something that we have to do more and more because it's getting harder and harder for people to qualify because of the price of things. Any last thoughts or words of wisdom around DPA or anything of that?
I don't know. So again, everything has their pros and cons. From what's being sold in the marketplace, I think it has more pros than what people are hearing about it. But I think you should always compare your options when buying a home, and I never think it hurts to do that. So maybe you have the option to put your own money down, or maybe you do have the option to do down payment assistance program. So we always like breaking out the differences so you can see exactly what your terms would be on both and then make the best decision for you. But at least you have the option. The last thing you want to do is not know you have the option and it actually be something better for you, and you just don't take advantage of it.
Yeah.
So
Yeah, I think that's the key. That's fantastic. We'll wrap up with that. Like, I think what we're great at is making sure that we give a borrower every opportunity to get the house they want with every particular product that's out there that can help them.
Yeah.
So, hey guys, what's up? If you like this sort of content, the things that we're doing here, mortgage related, give us a thumbs up, like the content. If you have more questions or any comments, just leave a comment. We'll talk to you soon. See ya.